guys, welcome to dinner. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how I do dinner in our tiny house. Ow. It splattered on me. You know we're a big fan of one-pot pasta, so I'm making that tonight. And cooking like this is super easy. You don't have to have much experience in the kitchen. You can't mess it up, and it's completely customizable. You can change up the seasonings. You can use fresh or frozen veggies, canned beans, dry beans, whatever you like. Just put it in there, cook it, and you'll have delicious food for a few days. Cleanup's also easy too because I'm only getting one pot dirty. And I've shown some variation of this pasta in many of my vlogs, and a common question I get is how can you eat the same thing every day and not get bored? We don't get bored because it isn't the same thing every day. This recipe changes every time I make it. So just like imagine your favorite food. If your favorite food was pizza or macaroni and cheese or whatever, you would be happy to eat that every day because it's your favorite food. So that's how I feel about pasta, and we just love having pasta for dinner. If you're curious about what else we eat during the day, I do have a what we eat in a day video where I show you everything we eat in a day in a typical day. I also have a video where I give you the calorie breakdown and micro and macronutrient breakdown for all of the foods we eat in a day, so check that out as well. But in this video, I'm just gonna focus on this delicious one-pot pasta. So yeah, let's just get started. So in this tiny house, I do all the cooking. So Kuba will help me by prepping the veggies before I cook pasta. So he preps all of the veggies for me, puts them in a pot, and then I do everything else. He also does all the dishes too, so it's a pretty sweet setup if you ask me. In this recipe because it adds a nice sweetness and it just like falls apart and gets nice and soft. And cabbage is super cheap but highly nutritious, so it just fills out the pasta there. I have red lentils and yellow lentils here. I just alternate them depending on what I feel like. So I usually put in between 1/3 of a cup to 1/2 cup of lentils. I'll just put them all in there. To season the pasta today, I'm using this homemade taco seasoning blend, and I will link to the video where I show you how to make this on a card, so check that out. I'm just gonna put in 2 tablespoons of this. Previously, I was using curry powder in this recipe, but since I have the new taco seasoning mix, we're gonna use that. We had it the other night and it was so good. We are super stocked up on these dried herbs. So I'm gonna put a teaspoon each of marjoram, thyme, oregano, and then 1/2 teaspoon of basil. I'm also gonna put in a little bit of black pepper. Freshly ground is best, but we don't have a grinder, so I'm using this stuff. Once this is cooking, I will taste it to see how spicy it is. If it's not spicy enough, I'm gonna add in some of this red curry paste. This is our favorite curry paste. It's so good, and it's vegan and oil-free. So now I'm just gonna fill this with water up to about here. And I have this applesauce water. I always fill jars with water when we're done with like jam or anything really. That way we can get all of the food out of the jar and not waste anything. So now I'm just gonna cover this and bring it up to a boil on a high heat. So the only thing I haven't put into the pot yet is tomato paste, and that's just because these are frozen right now. I buy tomato paste in large jars and then portion them into these little tiny tomato paste jars. So when I need to cook one-pot pasta, I just pop 2 of these out of the freezer and let them thaw on top of the stovetop. So by the time the veggies are up to a boil, then I can add in the tomato paste. It'll be nice and thawed. So now I'm just gonna lower the heat so it stays at a simmer and let it simmer for 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes. So I'm just gonna give this a stir and then add in the tomato paste and the pasta. And for pasta, we're just using this Barilla macaroni. This is about half of a box, so 250 grams. So that'll come back up to a simmer, and then we'll let it cook for 15 minutes, and just make sure you stir it occasionally so nothing sticks to the bottom. You can always lower the heat too if it starts bubbling too wildly. I'm gonna taste a little bit of this to see how spicy it is, because if we want it spicier, I'll add in the last bit of that red curry paste. It's not super spicy. Live a little. I'll add in a little water in this too. And when I'm cooking this, I can do other stuff too at the same time. So it's really like low maintenance cooking. Because I just stir this once in a while, and then as it gets closer to the end of the 15 minutes, you have to stir it more often because the pasta is like soaking up all the juice, so it's more likely to stick. 3, 2, 1. So then I just turn the heat off and then cover it. And then I will let this rest while I make chapati. If you're not making your own bread, then you can just let it rest for like 15 minutes or even longer. If you let it sit for like an hour or so, it'll just soak up everything and be super delicious. Because I actually prefer this when it's been sitting for a while, because it just... Oh, there's a bird outside. Because then it just soaks up everything and it's like super good. Yum.
These are good.
Alrighty, I'll portion it out here. I'm using the bowl that I mixed the chapati in, hence giant bowl. Kuba's using a smaller one. I try to use as little dishes as possible when I'm cooking, so that's why I'll just like reuse the same bowl and such to make less dishes for Kuba. Now our favorite toppings are tamari or soy sauce for a bit of saltiness and umami. Then we have nutritional yeast. This is fortified with B12. It's a little cheesy, a little nutty. I put this on every savory food. And lastly, we have beets with horseradish. Really yummy.
They are good.
You think it would be spicy, but it's not from the horseradish.
You can just taste it a little bit.
Yeah, it's very mild. Or maybe I should taste test it to see how spicy it is. Kuba's like, come on. Let's see here. It's not really spicy at all.
Okay.
So now we'll just let this sit out here until it cools off, and then I'll put it in the fridge. And then tomorrow for dinner, I will just add in a can or a jar of beans, some water, a little more curry paste, and then just heat it up. It'll be more like a soup, but it's still just as good, if not better.
It's usually better next day.
Alright, let's eat.